Hello, students in Johnson University's Foundations in Theology class. I am your instructor, Dr. David Russell Mosley. I wanted to make this video because I'm still seeing problems in some of your writing, even though I write to you about them on your papers, even though I put a section in the syllabus about it, even though I emailed you all that section independent of the syllabus, still seeing some of these issues, so I wanted to go through just some of the things on how to structure your papers. And this will go for both your research papers and your reflection papers. Although I'm more strict, I'm stricter, I should say, on your research papers than I am in your reflection papers. They're also worth more points, so there you go. All right. When you're doing your papers, at the very least for this class, you are given some kind of prompt, right? So you all turned in on Sunday a couple of assignments on like the humanity of Jesus. I think. I don't know. There are a lot of you. This is a long class. I shouldn't make excuses like that. Okay, so you've done a reflection paper on the problem of evil and mankind's sinful nature. That's what you turned in. I think you've got a paper coming up on the atonement. That's where I got lost. Right, so you had those papers turned in Sunday, and I haven't read any of those yet. So, just be forewarned, I haven't read those yet. So anyway, but to use the example of your miracles paper, since that's fresher in my memory right now, you were told to write a paper on miracles, and if you see me kind of looking away, that's because I've got your syllabus up in front of me, so I can look at this. So here's what the prompt said. Write a 5-page research paper on a biblical view of miracles. Address what constitutes a miracle. Is it just a wondrous or unexplainable event, or is there something more? The role miracles play, and how we should understand miracles today. So here's more or less what I expected out of you guys in writing that paper. And again, I've put this in my writing tips and guidelines. Your paper ought to be structured with an introductory paragraph, a set of body paragraphs, however many you need to cover both the page length and the subject matter, and a concluding paragraph. So in your introductory paragraph, first and foremost, while it's a good idea, you ought to start with some kind of hook, some way to get me interested to read your paper. And I put that in scare quotes, because of course I'm interested to read your papers. While I didn't technically set them, I teach the class that did. So I'm interested in your papers because that's my job. It's even better when you write a really interesting paper, but anyway. In your hook, avoid things like, since the beginning of time, since the dawn of creation, humans have always wondered. Don't write that kind of stuff, okay? Just don't. It doesn't, in my opinion, it doesn't belong in any kind of writing. Not research papers, not reflection papers, not blog posts or discussion forums. None of it. Avoid that kind of writing, okay? Just avoid it. Instead, write things like, in the New Testament, miracles take on this particular kind of framework. And you fill that out. In the New Testament, miracles appear to primarily be about bringing glorification to God, healing those who are sick, and pointing to the divinity of Jesus. Again, these are just things I'm pulling off the top of my head. But it's a decent list. So you write that. Okay? Something along those lines, some kind of hook. Then you say, in this paper, or something along those lines, I am going to show that miracles fill in the blank. And the way I'm going to show that about miracles is by addressing what is a miracle, what role do miracles play, and how should we view miracles today. So you give me that sentence, like in 1 or 2 sentences, you tell me, what is this paper about? What are you doing in this paper? 1 or 2 sentences, tops. Then you, after you tell me what this paper is about, you tell me how you're going to explore that, prove it, whatever. And for your papers, you are always, in all of your papers, you are assigned like a set of questions. Those questions ought to form the structure of your paper. So you say, I'm going to prove that, or I'm going to argue that we ought to expect miracles to continue today. I'm going to prove that by first discussing what a miracle is. I'm going to define what a miracle is. Then I'm going to discuss what roles miracles played in Scripture. Finally, from these 2 things, I'm going to argue that miracles are still relevant today and that we should still expect them today. That's just one version of how that paper could have gone. Then, in your body, you have 3 sections. One section, it could be 1 paragraph, it could be 2, it could be 3. It all depends on how much you need. Answers, what is a miracle? Section 2 answers, what role do miracles play in Scripture? Section 3 then is, what role do miracles play today? What should we expect today from miracles? You do that, then you write a final paragraph that says, in this paper, I sought to prove that we ought to expect miracles to still happen today. I showed that by first defining a miracle as, fill in the blank, and showed that the role miracles played throughout Scripture was, fill in the blank. Therefore, we ought to still expect miracles to happen today. Right? Boom. You're done. And all of your papers really ought to be structured like this. Even your reflection papers ought to be structured like this. Because we're asking you to interact with particular ideas, with a particular theme, with particular readings. So just structure your paper based on the questions that we set. And in terms of structure, you're going to get so many points for getting the structure right. A few other things just to keep in mind as you continue to work on your papers for these classes. Please do not use contractions. A contraction is when you take words like do and not and make it don't. Or should and not and make it shouldn't. Don't do it. See what I did there? No contractions. Don't, see what I did there? Split your infinitives. To split an infinitive is basically, an infinitive is the basic form of a verb. To go, to be, to make, to ride. It's the basic form of a verb. From there, we can go I ride, you ride, he rides, she rides, it rides, all that stuff. When you split an infinitive, you put something between the to and the verb. So, to give a classic example, and the example I gave in the written version of this, the introduction to Star Trek, space, the final frontier, to boldly go where no man has gone before. To boldly go is a split infinitive. If you wanted to write that phrase without a split infinitive, you would either write boldly to go where no man has gone before, or to go boldly where no man has gone before, or, and this is preferable in academic writing, to go where no man has gone before. Now you notice I left out the word boldly there. Boldly and largely, see what I did there, a lot of the words that end in ly in our language are what are called adverbs. An adverb is a word that modifies, that changes in some way or adds to in some way a verb or a noun. The word boldly in the phrase to boldly go, or boldly to go, or to go boldly, modifies the verb to go. It tells us with what kind of character one goes. Similarly, adjectives, words that modify nouns, typically, like he was green, um, which is a weird example, but there you go. It's the first thing that came to my head. Or he was great. Those are adjectives. Adverbs can also modify those. Anyway, point being, you should avoid adverbs or lots of adverbs in your writing. Instead, look for words that are more forceful on their own. So if you don't want to say to go boldly, you can say to burst forth, or to, maybe you're a bit more Western, to saunter where no man has gone before, or to explore, which is really what they're trying to say. To explore, to quest where no man has quested before. Find verbs, find adjectives that more appropriately describe what you're trying to say. Of course, I could just regurgitate the entire writing guidelines, but I'm not going to do that. Read them. It's so very important, and it will save you so many points if you structure your papers correctly. Okay? This week, I will also more than likely be sending out something that was made up by a friend of mine for his students. It's a series of abbreviations that basically I will use for grading your papers. It's going to save some time for me so that I can read your papers a bit more quickly. And I will send you kind of the code. So I'll put a little abbreviation in, and then you can go and look at the code to see what that means. If you're ever confused about anything, don't hesitate to email me and ask. Okay? Because I want you to get better. Like, that's my job as your teacher, is to help you get better, not just as students, but as human beings. But I also want you to get better as students. Think of it this way. I don't take a lot of pleasure in, 1, reading bad papers, and 2, giving earned bad grades. I don't like it. I don't like doing that. I have to. It's my job, but I don't like doing it. So I would love it if you all were just spectacular writers, and I could only focus on the content of your papers and give you all good grades. So if you have questions, please do email me. Okay. But anyway, look over the guidelines. If you have any questions, email me. I will talk to you all later. God bless.